Hi, thanks for joining me. It's Jackie from White Raven Creatives on Vancouver Island. I was asked a question about some papers that I did in one of my fairy journals. I love the way it turned out, and so I was asked how I got the color. And I made that journal quite a while ago, so I really couldn't remember the answer. So I thought, well, what better way, if you have a question, try and figure it out. That's the way my mind works. So I thought I would do that. So I had some coffee dye papers that I just did recently. And I thought I would mess with these and see if I can get different results and show you guys what I'm getting as I go. So these are some of the coffee dye papers that I did the other day, and there's some spraying of the Tim Holtz. That one's a mica stain, but it's the different sprays that I used. Actually, here's the exact ones I used. So the distress stains, spray stains, distress spray stain. So they're all called something different depending on the label. Anyway, these are the ones I used, and those are the colors that I use. So I'm going to continue with the same colors because I'm going to be using these in a boho journal coming up as one of my new makes. So what I'm going to do is just go look through some of these coffee dye papers that have some staining on, and take some out, and let's just mess around a little bit, and then I'll tell you what I'm doing. And so I don't know how well you guys can see some of the sprays that I put on to the papers as I was making the coffee papers. Now, whether I think I made the coffee papers, and then just when they came out of the oven, when they are a little bit damp still, I sprayed them, and so you get a real diffused. Well, this one was a little drier. You can see it's much. Can you see? I say you can see, but can you? So that one's much more spray. You can see that's on dry. Wet on wet, wet on dry, as Tim says. So anyway, let me mess with these. I'm going to dye some more in coffee paper, and I'm going to do some spray them before and then coffee them. And I'm going to do some that are after coffee them and then spray, so we can see if we can see a difference. Anyway, I'll be back and I will show you what I've got. Okay, so I'm going to take this paper so that you can see the before, and it's got virtually no other stain, just the coffee. And then this one's got a little bit. I'm going to take that one as well. And so I'm going to take another one that's got nothing. And then I'm going to take another one that's got a good show. All right, so I'm going to take those four and mess with those, and I'll come back and I'll show you the differences. Okay, so I would say the results are inconclusive. Almost negligible, is that the word? You can't really tell the difference, because it doesn't really matter whether you spray before or after you've coffee dyed, as long as the paper is wet and you're getting a wet on wet. You're going to get that. You're going to get a little bit of that blossoming as well. That's still a bit damp. I can feel it. The rest of this is pretty dry. Now, these are the first ones that I put in that were already sprayed and stained. So I added a little more spray after to just see what the effects would be. And there's another one. And of course, they got very wet. I dipped them in more coffee, particularly on that one side. This side's still fairly white, but yes, paper gets quite fragile, and this is what happens. You end up with a big rip. But what we're trying to do is look at the staining and the effects of the spray stains, ta-da, on the coffee paper. Now these are the ones that were basically just coffee stained, and then I sprayed them. So I did some spraying and then just sticking it back in the oven to dry up. And as long as the paper was wet, that's what you got. When they came out and they were fairly dry, I would spray them, and that's when you would get something more like that. And you can tell by the darker ring around the outside on that. And then there's just more. So then I thought that maybe what I had done when I made that book was, I think I might have had all the edges already inked, you know, using the ink pads. And of course, not the archivals, but these inks. And so I would put, I think I had all the edges already inked like that. And then when they were sprayed and dried, give that a quick second to see what happens. It's a little damp on that edge, but so that's not moving much. But as we know, these inks are always reactive. So if I put a little water on there, or a lot of water, it will react and move. And yeah, so there's the edge that I tried to just stick in the water and let that run down and then spray while it was wet. Now this one is wet. Let's spray it while it's wet. And you're getting more of a diffused spray when it's wet, opposed to when it's dry. It doesn't, well, like, you know, what are we thinking here? There's wet, there's spray. Let's dry that quickly. And there's the results. Still wet. But yeah, when it's wet, it just bleeds out. I mean, and that's a nice look, if that's what you want. So I don't know if that's answered the question or not. I don't even know if it's answered the question for myself. I think basically what I've concluded with this little experiment is that it doesn't matter whether you spray your extra color sprays on the coffee paper before you cook them, you know, with the coffee stain, when you're staining and then spraying, or whether you spray them after. You're gonna still get these effects on your papers. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to even recognize these as the same original 4 papers that I pulled out. It's still quite wet. Let me dry it. So there it is, dry, and it's quite a muted coloring. So they're beautiful, whatever. And I think really well what this has done for me is just made me decide to go back and do more of these papers and spray more colors onto them. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to show you 2 more here. All right, so this is what they look like now. I'm not going to go anywhere. It's dry, coffee stained paper. All right, on this one, the greenie, I'm going to spray. I'm going to dribble with the green. And on this one, I'm going to spray and dribble with the green. If I can get it to actually dribble instead of spraying. And of course it doesn't. Okay, so yeah, I'm just getting a spray. There's a few dribbles. It's probably because I'm trying to aim this downward, and sprays like to be sprayed straight out. The stuff is in the bottom of the container stuff. Anyway, so this one, I've got splatters on both, so now I'm going to just dry this one, see how it works, and this one I'm going to spray a little water on. And let it sit a minute or two. And then I'm going to dry them both with the heat tool. All right. All right. Yes, I did add some purple because I kept on experimenting. So this was the one that was dry, and I just let it do its thing. I didn't add water, and that's how it dried. It's got the brown ring around the paint. And these ones are the ones that I added the water to and then dried them. And they're much more, I would say, much more diffused even than those ones. So the water, of course, dilutes it, so we expect that. And then what I did with the purple was it was wet. So this was ink, then wet. And then since it was already wet, I decided I would try a little spray on the already wet stuff. See if it made a difference, what order you put the sprays on. It doesn't really make any difference. Although, I guess because of the ink that we're using, it did get a little bit of the spray over onto the paper that wasn't wet. But, yeah. Oh, that purple is the mica one, so I don't know if you guys can see that shine in there, but they are very nice. So, I don't know. So, the thing with this one too is you can see more, if that's focused. I hope it's focused. Every time I move, it's going to get out of focus again. But on this one, you can see how the paint has splattered and run into the water. See that? And with the dry on, or the spray directly on the dry and then leaving to dry, they just kind of stayed pretty much in little droplet spaces. And the one that was misted and didn't droplet, it just turned out like that, quite pale. And there's the back sides. So anyway, there you go. I can see some of these are quite light compared to others, and some are just the coffee stain. If you're wondering what's going on here, besides just the coffee, I crinkle the pages when they are in the pan soaking in the coffee, and then I get more of this kind of effect, and the coffee goes into the grooves a little bit better. And there's a really good example of a crinkled up piece. So let's see what happens when I spray that one. So let's spray it first with water, straight water. Just maybe a little bit more in some spots. And then I will spray with this, the purple mica, if I can get the bottle to go. So let's see what happens there. Okay, so we've got that wet spray and sprayed with the color. And let's spray this one a little bit more, just to see where that ends up going, because that will run. And I can get more effects from that. Especially on the paper that's been crinkled, because it's broken down the fibers of the paper, so the color is going to get in there much better than there. So let me dry this and I'll be back. Okay, so I think we have a little bit more of an answer. This was, again, dry paper, coffee stain paper, dried, and then I did a little spray of water, and then I sprayed it with this purple, and then dried it, and that's what I got. This one, I had the same scenario to start with, but once the spray was on, I sprayed it again. So, of course, it muted the color, it spread the color. So you can really see the differences. And that's just a little bit of color down here that splashed on. And because it's the mica, I really like that effect. Because you kind of lose the mica in there a little bit. If you turn the pages, of course, it's still there, but it's not as concentrated as that there. Wait, I don't know how close I could actually get this to focus. Anyway, so again, I think you're gonna get, if it's wet on wet, you're gonna get that if it's just a little wet, and if it's more soaky wet, you're gonna spread out the color. So I hope that has answered some questions, and I'm going to continue. I've got some beautiful papers here, and I really want to do more of this spraying on here with a little bit, so I'm going to continue in that vein and see what I end up with. So watch for it in I don't know when the boho book comes up. I guess that'll be a while. It's lots of bits and pieces to gather up for the boho gypsy junk journal that I'm making. But anyway, just sprayed that just now. There, it's drying. It just adds, doesn't it? Just adds a nice little bit of course, if you want color. If you don't, then don't spray. You can just have plain old brown. But who the heck wants plain old brown? Not I. Not I, said the little red hen. Okay, so I'm going to just keep playing and having fun with my stuff. And thanks for joining. I think you've created a monster here. I've got to get my sprays and use more. So see the mica on that one just stayed. I'm going to not air dry, or just let that air dry and just see if that makes a difference compared to when you heat it. Those micas are sure nice, especially for a book like this. Anyway, okay, thanks again. I think I've said goodbye about 10 times. So this time it's for sure. Take care of yourselves. If you like what I do, it's White Raven Creatives. Join me and hit the notification bell to see more. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.